Well, good afternoon. My name is William Lawson, and welcome to the Morning Report. Sometimes, just sometimes, some of the national pictures end up at the local door. And this is one of those times for me. On March 11th, 2026, the state of Florida delivered a message to the city of Tampa, where I reside, that could have serious political and legal consequences. In a formal letter sent to Tampa City Mayor Jane Castor, former police chief, Florida Attorney General James Altmaier accused the TPD of adopting policies that violate Florida's strict anti-sanctuary laws. The accusation is simple, but it's serious. Tampa police policies may be preventing officers from cooperating fully with federal immigration enforcement. And under Florida law, that would be illegal. The Attorney General's letter warns that unless these policies are reversed immediately, the state could pursue enforcement actions, including the possible removal of officials who refuse to comply with state law. Now, this is not merely a disagreement about policy. This is a confrontation between state authority and local government power. And it highlights the growing national debate about immigration enforcement. The question now facing Tampa is blunt. Will the city follow Florida law, or will the city challenge it? This legal issue centers on Florida Statute 908.103, one of the most aggressive anti-sanctuary provisions in the country. The statute prohibits local government or law enforcement agencies from implementing any policy that limits cooperation between federal immigration authorities. And under Florida law, sanctuary policies are defined broadly. They include any rule or practice that prevents officers from sharing information or immigration information with federal agencies, blocks participation in federal immigration operations, interferes with communications with ICE, discourages immigration enforcement cooperation. So in short, local governments cannot create policies that shield illegal immigrants from federal immigration enforcement. Now, the Florida law goes even farther. It also requires local jurisdictions to use best efforts to assist federal immigration enforcement. That phrase, best efforts, is going to be key. It means that local police departments cannot merely avoid obstruction, they must actively cooperate. That means that local police departments cannot merely just avoid obstruction, just I'll do what y'all do. They must actually cooperate. And according to the Attorney General's office, Tampa's current policies fall short of that standard. Now, the central part of the controversy revolves around the 287G program, a federal initiative that allows local enforcement officers to assist with immigration enforcement. Under 287G, local officers can be trained and authorized by ICE to identify, process illegal immigrants encountered during their duties. The program essentially creates a partnership between local police and federal immigration authorities. Now, supporters say the program helps identify criminal aliens and remove them from communities. Critics, however, say that it can discourage immigrant communities from cooperating with police. But in Florida, participation in immigration enforcement cooperation is not optional. Okay. The Attorney General's letter argues that Tampa has adopted policies that limit how its officers can participate in 287G activities. Specifically, the letter claims that Tampa police are prohibited from sharing certain information with federal immigration officials. They are prohibited from investigating the immigration status of crime victims or witnesses. They're also prohibited from participating in broader immigration enforcement operations. The Attorney General argues these limitations effectively create a sanctuary policy. Now, the city of Tampa has not publicly issued a full response on the letter yet, but policies like this, like the ones described, typically come from a common concern. Local governments often worry that aggressive immigration enforcement may discourage victims or witnesses from reporting crimes. If then, I remember I said that Jane Castor is a former police chief, so that gives you some perspective of what's going on. If someone fears deportation, they may hesitate to cooperate with police. Some cities adopt policies designed to reassure immigrant communities that reporting crime will not automatically lead to immigration enforcement. These policies are often framed as public safety measures rather than immigration policies. But Florida law leaves little room, no room for these arguments. According to the Attorney General's office, the state legislature has already decided that immigration enforcement cooperation must take priority. Now, the tone of the letter is direct and unmistakable. The Attorney General states that Tampa's police policies effectively establish a sanctuary policy. He argues that policies not only violate state law, but also endanger public safety. The letter cites recent examples of criminal illegal aliens arrested through federal state cooperation programs. In one case, a Florida Highway Patrol officer participating in the 287G program arrested an illegal immigrant in Hillsborough County who had a significant criminal history and an active domestic violence protection order. The Attorney General also points to a large ICE operation in Central Florida that resulted in the arrest of approximately 400 criminal illegal aliens. Those arrested individuals charged or convicted of serious crimes like molestation, domestic violence, prostitution, battery, lewd, and lascivious behavior. The message from the state is very clear. Policies that restrict immigration enforcement cooperation may allow dangerous criminals to remain in communities. Now, the Attorney General has given Tampa a clear deadline. The city must reverse the policies in questions by March 31st, 2026. If Tampa fails to do so, the state could pursue enforcement actions. Now, these actions may include civil penalties, legal challenges, removal proceedings for officials who refuse to comply with the order. We saw an attorney general, a state attorney removed. We saw a state attorney removed, remember? So under Florida law, state officials can pursue removal from office if local officials knowingly maintain unlawful sanctuary policies. That possibility raises the stakes significantly. Now, while the letter focuses on Tampa, the implications are much broader. Florida has taken one of the most aggressive positions in the country on immigration enforcement cooperation. The state legislature and governor have made it clear that sanctuary policies will not be tolerated. This warning to Tampa sends a signal to every city and county in the state. Local governments do not get to opt out of immigration enforcement cooperation. The state has made that decision, and it intends to enforce it. Now, this conflict also reflects a much larger national debate. Across the United States, cities and states have taken very different approaches to immigration enforcement. Some jurisdictions embrace cooperation with federal authorities. Others limit it. Supporters of strict enforcement argue that immigration law is meaningless if it's not enforced. They argue that sanctuary policies create safe havens for illegal immigration and undermine the rule of law. Critics argue that local police should focus on local crime rather than federal immigration enforcement. They also warn that aggressive immigration enforcement can damage trust between police and immigrant communities. Florida's position is clear. The state believes that immigration enforcement cooperation strengthens public safety. Now, of course, there's always a political dimension to this conflict. Immigration is one of those defining issues in American politics now. In states like Florida, where immigration enforcement policies have strong support among voters, local officials who appear to resist these policies may face political backlash. The Attorney General's letter places Tampa's officials in a difficult position. If they reverse the policies, they will face criticism from immigration advocates. If they refuse, they will face legal action from the state. Either way, the issue is unlikely to disappear quickly. The next steps depend largely on how Mayor Castor and the city of Tampa respond. Several outcomes are possible. The city could revise its policies to align with state law. It could argue that its policies are being misrepresented, or it could challenge the state's interpretation in court. A legal challenge could potentially become a major statewide case. It would test the limits of the state's authority over local law enforcement policies. But for now, however, the state has made its position unmistakably clear. Florida believes that Tampa's policies violate the law, and the clock is ticking. Now, here's the bottom line. This competition between Florida and Tampa is about more than a single police policy. It's about a fundamental question of governance. Who decides immigration enforcement policy? Is it local government or the state? Florida's answer is simple. State law governs. Local officials are expected to follow it. And if they don't, the state says it's prepared to act, whatever that is. The coming weeks will determine whether Tampa changes course or whether this dispute escalates into a major legal and political showdown. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. Thank you ever so much for your kind attention. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, now take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.